Hello and welcome to City of Stuttgart. We are in summer and we went for a walk in the center of the city. We took the opportunity and bring you a little tour so that you can get to know a little of what you can find in the city. The city history tour is a short walk in the historic center, but with a lot of interesting information to understand a bit about the spirit of the city and its development during different eras. Without hesitation, it is one of the most basic activities of our visitors, since in addition to visiting the main squares and buildings of the center, the informative notes are essential to understand how the social and the cultural development of the city was from its beginning. The guide, in a walk for about 2 hours, leads visitors through the gardens of the new palace, the theater and the opera, the central square, the old castle, and the squares around like Schillerplatz or Karlsplatz, passing by the market and the city hall. During the tour, the history of each corner of the city is described, from Roman times to the present days. The way of life and the contribution of Württemberg dynasty and influence of the history of southern Germany. Many anecdotes that help visitors to learn not only about the city of Stuttgart but also about the influence of the city in the state of Baden Wuerttemberg, its characters, daily life of inhabitants at different times, and their social development. This is the Stuttgart Central Station, in German Stuttgart Hauptbahnhof. It's the largest long-distance rail hub in the German state of Baden Wuerttemberg, and an interchange node with Stuttgart regional and urban rail and bus transport system. Stuttgart Central Station is a reinforced concrete building built between 1914 and 1928. The building has a 56-meter high tower on top which used to be a rotating Mercedes-Benz symbol. The main entrance of the station begins the most important shopping street in the city, the Königstrasse. This street connects the station with the first basement. In 2005, the building was nominated by UNESCO to be included as a World Heritage Site. Currently, there is a debate about the modernization of the station under the project called Stuttgart 21. If you want to know more about this important project, you can search in our channel a video or you can visit our website. We leave a link in the description below. And this is the Königstrasse, means the street of the king, the main pedestrian street in the city. It runs through the entire center for a little over 2 kilometers. And it is where you find the largest number of shopping centers, shops, boutiques, also linked to different alleys between squares and different places of attraction of the city center. You will be able to locate it very easy when you get to the main train station, or other important stations like Schlossplatz or Charlottenplatz, because it is the street that you find right in front of the impressive new palace of Stuttgart. The new palace, or called the new castle, in German Das Neue Schloss, is an impressive building in front of the palace square, or Schlossplatz, the central square in Stuttgart. The castle was built in late Baroque style from 1746 to 1797. And from 1805 to 1807, it was the residence of the kings of Württemberg. The palace stands next to the old castle. The palace was almost completely destroyed by Allies bombing during the Second World War and rebuilt between 1958 to 1964. During this time, the inside of the castle was also restored and served as the seat of the Baden Wuerttemberg State Parliament. It is currently used by the Ministry of Finance and Education. External public visits are only allowed on special occasions. Next to the Schlossplatz, you will find the other two popular squares in Stuttgart, the Karlsplatz to the south and the Schillerplatz to the southwest. Originally, like we said, its construction took place during the 1746 until the 1807. For more than 50 years, its construction could not be finished due to the lack of funds, and its completion was a political decision motivated to be able to proclaim the state of Württemberg as a kingdom, declared by Napoleon, being the first king, Frederick I, who received the visit of Napoleon himself for such important act, being since then the king's residence for the following years. The palace has 365 rooms, with a main entrance right in front of the square of the castle and a lateral one in the side of the palace garden. The palace garden is another attraction within the city. It surrounds the new palace from the backside to the northern part, with a very pleasant environmental design, with an artificial lagoon known as the Ekesi, or the Lagoon of the Corners. Has been modified several times in the history, where you also find a lot of art in its surroundings, extensive green gardens and historical buildings such as the old theater of the city, home of the opera and the ballet of Stuttgart. And the theater is one of the buildings that are still preserved in original because it's one of the few places that was not affected by the bombing of the Second World War. It can be said that the garden of the palace is part of the life of the citizens of the city. Visit it during the summer and spend the afternoon in front of the lagoon, sitting in the grass or under the shade of a tree, or even taking the sun. It's something very common. In addition, the palace garden has access to many of the attractions of the city in general. We are talking not only about the theater, but also about the History Museum, the Art Museum, the city palace known as Stadtpalais, the new library, and the same times connect to the impressive Rosenstein Park, the Palace Square, and the main train station. The palace is large, and with the set of elements that make it up, and of course the beautiful palace next to it, makes a very characteristic photograph of southern Germany, among a collection of flowers, fountains, sculptures, history buildings, green area, a well-preserved habitat, with a collection of birds among different breeds of ducks and swans. Around the palace garden you will find a collection of Roman sculpture next to the artificial lagoon. They are exhibited only during the summer and are protected from the weather in the winter season. You also find different very important sculptures. One of them in front of the theater is the statue of Schiller, a very important character of the city and the region of Stuttgart. Also a few steps away is the Fountain of Destiny, an Art Nouveau style sculpture with its fountain dedicated to the theater actress Anna Suter, who was murdered by a former lover in 1910 and who settled in the city during her artistic life. The source tries to represent the love story between two lovers, with the goddess of destiny in the middle, in one side a couple demonstrating the joy and the other one side demonstrating the suffering. Another building that stands out as it is in the palace garden is the state parliament. It is located next to the theater and it is a glass building that apparently has two levels. The second level with dark stained glass windows and a cafeteria below. Very elegant. It was built after the Second World War with a modern design for the time, where an attempt was made to represent through stained glass the transparency with which one must work in a representation of the population. The cafeteria is in the first level and is open to the public permanently. In the Schlossplatz, in front of the palace, we can find some important characters. Initially, we find in the center a pillar with an impressive sculpture of the goddess Concordia, the goddess of agreement and harmony. This pillar was built to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Reich of one of the most important kings of Württemberg, the King Wilhelm I, a very important figure in the development of the city and the community. On the side there are two large fountains with very impressive sculptures. This work during the summer. Around the palace square is the king of the street, or the Königstrasse, in front of what it was the first shopping center in the city, known as the Königpassage. In front of it there's also the statue of Duke Christoph, who stood out for being the duke who modified the old castle from inside, giving it this Renaissance design it has today. On the old castle you find it right next to the square. It is one of the first buildings built in the city together with the church, or the Stiftskirche, in the Schillerplatz. The Schlossplatz is one of the areas with the greatest social activity in the city. This is the headquarters of the most important activities throughout the year. Public and private events like Christmas market, the wine festival, the Summerfest, the Jazz Open, and many more activities. Passing through the surroundings of the old castle, you will find two of the squares also of great importance in the city. One is the Schiller Square and the other is the Karlsplatz. And then you reach the market of the Markthalle, a mandatory stop for all visitors. It's a market with a culinary specialties in a classic style with a very pleasant atmosphere. In the market you will find a bit of everything, from various items for the home, cafeterias and restaurants, and above all many international culinary specialties, all with a great elegance. Surrounded by many historical buildings such as the Stiftskirche, several pedestrian small streets and alleys with exclusive designer boutiques, a large number of restaurants, bars, cafes, bakeries, and much more. A few meters from the Markthalle, you will find another square of great importance. This is the Market Square or Marktplatz, which is where the city hall is located. This was a completely renovated, both the building and the town hall after the Second World War. Its renovation was a totally different design from the original, giving it this more modern style for that time. Currently, several very popular social events take place in this square, including the Festival of Cultures during the summer, one of the very interesting musical and gastronomic festivals where all the different cultures that coexist in the city mix. Also, at the end of the summer, there's the wine festival, and in the winter, the Christmas market. All the surroundings very elegant, adorned with the background by the towers of the church, a photograph very much in the style of the conservative city. In the surroundings, you can walk for a couple of hours between small streets, mostly pedestrian or with low vehicular traffic. Streets that show that Stuttgart was somewhat an old small city walled in the beginnings. You find an architectural combination with modern buildings and some others with remnants rebuilt after the war with the old designs of the beginning of the last century. Popular neighborhoods like Hansing Gluck, where you can find different bars for youngs and not so young, or Caldwellstrasse, where you also find a bit of nightlife, a lot of gastronomy, cafes, and shops. But in general, the center is relatively small. You can get lost walking around it without problem in a couple hours. Then you will locate yourself very easily. If you plan to visit the city soon, we invite you to subscribe to our channel and especially to visit our blog. I leave the link below in the description of this video. There you will find a guide, tours, and activities that you can find in the city. Thank you very much for watching the video until this point, and see you in the next one.